There is a widely held belief that Adonijah, Abednego, JaRamogi, Oginga Odinga cast Raila. I don't think he did it. If at all anything, maybe indirectly, but him intentionally opening up and casting his child, I don't think so. What people believe, what people deliberately say that Abednego, Adonijah, JaRamogi, Oginga Odinga cast his son is that in any public meeting, whenever there is usually the most important person is usually the last person to talk, and JaRamogi had that small shrilled voice which usually was like a whisper. So you know, Raila has spent his life always thinking about himself, and especially after Adonijah, Abednego, JaRamogi, Oginga Odinga indicated that he would have wished James Agri Orengo to be his political heir. Raila used to wait for an occasion when his father was talking, and he would come with youths who would drown the sound of the father, and the father would plead weakly, in a very weak voice. He used to call him a rare name, Auma or something like that. He would say in their vernacular, Auma, what are you now doing to me? So Raila would enter and cause chaos. That is what led that to many people think so. You see, JaRamogi was a shrewd businessman. He started a business that was called Luo Thrift Company, and it was a very good company. You know, JaRamogi was never a politician in the first place. JaRamogi had two functions in Luo land, especially. He had a big company called Luo Thrift, which was one of the biggest countries in the country, the biggest companies in the country. He was also what in Luo is called Ker. Now, Ker is not a political leader, but the best definition of a Ker, one could compare it to the Maasai word Laiboni. So JaRamogi was a sort of a Laiboni, and he was a direct descendant of Ramogi. The Luo tribe has three branches. The Tanzanian branch, which was headed by Owiny. The Ugandan branch was headed by Apathola, and the Kenyan branch was headed by Ramogi. So he was a direct descendant of a Ker. Actually, after he entered politics, he did not surrender the Kership, and after his death, his son has been dishing out the Kership to whoever he pleases politically, for political mileage. But Ker was more of a heredity, and Raila by extension is a grandson to Ramogi. History ya kusema ati he is a Mwanga. So when Jomo Kenyatta was a member of Kenya African Union and he was going around the country, he went to the then Nyanza Elgon area, which is a combination of Western Province and Nyanza Province. He went there and found a rich businessman. The reason why Jomo Kenyatta wanted JaRamogi to join politics was so that Adonijah Abednego JaRamogi Oginga Odinga uses his vast pocket to finance independence politics. So there is, I said that JaRamogi never cast his son, although people cheat and say he cast him and said you'll never be president. But he may have cast him indirectly, because in African society or even religious society, they say your parent is your second God. Now when you find your father is talking and then you disrupt him, anything, whatever, I think the curse follows you, not necessarily that the father has cursed you, but that one in many ways it may follow you automatically without necessarily the father cursing you. So what I'm trying to say here is that Abednego Adonijah JaRamogi Oginga Odinga did not utter words to the effect that he was cursing his son. Adonijah Abednego JaRamogi Oginga Odinga wanted his son to join politics, but he felt that he had a lot of properties and he felt that his eldest son, of course he had realized that if you enter politics blindly, then you become poor. So he wanted his eldest son, who is Dr. Oburu, to inherit his business acumen. That is why Oburu has a PhD in economics. But he wanted Raila to be his political heir. Later on, he changed his mind and preferred James Agri Orengo. Raila is what we call agent of influence in intelligence. You know, when the country was gaining independence, each country realized that Jomo Kenyatta was too old to rule for long, and they placed a second layer of politicians to take over. And the Russian and Chinese knew that JaRamogi was also not young, so that is why Raila was specifically recruited and brought up being a rebel. It is something that was brought in him, that he had to attend Patrick Lumumba University in Moscow on paramilitary and guerrilla warfare. To show that Raila was so good in guerrilla warfare, you can remember at the junction of Moi Avenue and Kenyatta Avenue, there was a blast where the head of police, Matthew Sitere, who was a career GSU officer, thought that it was an electric fault, but Raila, having been trained in improvised devices, ruled that it was an improvised explosive device. And the last thing I want to talk about is that if Raila will never be president, it has to do not with a curse or anything, but the way he organizes his elections. There is a tweet that I once sent where I joked and said Raila is a good Kiganjo person who knows how to train people but cannot run a police station. But sincerely speaking, if Raila can maintain half of what he had in the last election and gain new grounds, You see, he dismantled every election. He dismantles the last group, goes abroad for Baba while you are away, then comes back, starts rubber browsing with an intention for the state to see him aside. When they see him aside, he goes to see the state without involving the principles of CORD, NASA, or even Azimio. He will be pocketed alone. These people will be annoyed. Then in the next election, he gains so many new converts that if he would have maintained a sizable ground for the last election, he will win. The reason why he loses election, it is never that it is stolen. It is just that you see, if you gain 3, if you lose 3 and gain 2, then you have lost 1. So he wonders why he has gained more, but is not winning. He does not count what he has lost. But all in all, Raila will be the best president Kenya will never have, after his father, of course.